guys? Messenger of the Cross, Pulse Point Media. I'm just coming to you with a video from the CIA testimony that shook the world. Let's take a look at this and let's check it out and listen to what this guy has to say.
I'm not the highest ranking CIA officer to go public. There have been CIA directors going public all the time. I think I have the distinction of being one of the highest case officers to go public and endeavor to tell the truth about what the CIA has been up to.
He is John Stockwell. Spent 12 years inside the CIA. An ex-Marine, he received the CIA Medal of Merit. He's one of the highest ranking officers to ever walk out and talk. Now, what he's about to say is disturbing, and every word of it is documented.
It's a vast subject, a dense subject. I can't possibly do justice to it in the time allowed. This means I'm going to have to insult your intelligence by skimming across the top of subjects that you could get a PhD dissertation written in and still not cover thoroughly. This massive documentation, of course, is the salvation of the intellectually attuned. I urge you to read for yourselves. Do not take anything I'm saying tonight as the gospel. I'm telling you that our leaders lied to us. They lied to us systematically. They lied to us with a purpose that may not be your purpose. Some of their lies, if you're a young man, may motivate you to go off someday and die, be killed, or to kill people. And the only way you can defend yourself against other people programming you, because we are programmable. Marine Corps boot camp taught me that. They can teach you and get you fired up, rah, 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 and then say charge, and you'll charge up the hill without asking why, and perhaps not come down the hill feet first.
He wrote a book about what he saw inside. The CIA sued him for it. A court ordered him to submit everything he writes to the CIA for censorship and awarded them every dollar the book made. He's the only author who asked people not to buy his book.
If you don't defend yourself by filling your mind with a true understanding of what's happening in the world, then others will fill it up for you, and then at some point in time, use the information and the conditioning that they've planted in your mind and breast to use you, if you will.
And that's really what they've done to our family and friends. And by the way, guys, I just want to make mention that there might be a commercial that pops up here, so I might have to just kind of skip through it, so be patient. But we're just covering this information because I'm just hitting it from all different angles at all different times. And we're just taking a look at, what it really means to keep you safe and save lives, and what they're really doing as they keep mocking us and insulting our intelligence on TV and on the podiums, telling us that over and over and over, we're here to keep you safe and save lives, as the excuse to suspend all rights, take your rights, and make the decision for you. And that's what they've been well underway doing for all of us.
What you're about to watch is almost 3 hours of testimony, compressed into the parts I found most revealing. I urge you to watch this video to the end. Some of it will confirm what you already suspected, and some of it you're not ready for.
Meanwhile, CIA activities, of course, have left their own permanent mark on U.S. society. The MK Ultra program, I'll talk about it and perhaps not come down the hill feet first. The book, The Agency by John Rainlay, which is the memoirs of CIA founders Larry Houston, Ray Klein, and others, says that there were 175 different projects in that one program. We know of about 5 of them. These were experimentations with swine fever, with dengue fever, with deadly diseases, with psychedelic drugs on American population groupings without their permission in many cases. If you were reading the newspapers in October of 1980...
Or awareness, okay? Because they don't care about what you think.
You noticed that there was a settlement declared between the CIA and the victims at McGill University in Canada, where the CIA had been working with a mad psychiatrist who was taking the patients who came to him for help and shooting them up with hallucinogenic drugs.
Okay, and you guys remember what I said about these mad scientists and psychologists giving us customized abuse through the targeting program, and that's basically what we got going down. But I'm just showing the parallels from MK Ultra advancing into the electromagnetic weapons, the silent weapons systems that they're using against all of us, And they have no problem about burning you in your house and frying your organs and electrocuting your organs and killing you and making it look like an accident or poisoning you and, or drugging you like they've done to me. And then, they'll put you with a woman or a honeypot and take pictures of you and in compromised positions. And then when you decide to speak out, they just, deploy this stuff and write a narrative about you that you're just a pervert, you're just a criminal, you're just paranoid and schizophrenic and mentally ill. And that's what all abusers say. And we got to get that down, guys, because all narcissist psychopaths say that and gaslight and pretend like you're defective and you don't see clearly and you don't understand. You're just not spiritual enough to understand these things. That's, happening in churches across America with these religious cult groups under the 501c3 nonprofit cult status. Basically, they're getting money from the federal government and lying to the congregation and, join themselves to the state with state-funded programs and state-authorized teachings. Okay, so there is no real church in America that hasn't been merged to the state and receiving this federal subsidy money and all these other, trainings and programs under the emergency to keep people safe and save lives. And so that's how they sell it across the board and get do-gooders to go along with it without questioning, because it's always the do-gooders that never question anything.
Experiment with their minds instead of healing them. And this was a CI program for which, with your tax dollars, we eventually paid damages to the victims. Read for
And that's like with everything. We become responsible and punished and bear the consequence of these tyrannical people who do whatever they want, and the consequences transferred onto us, the general public. And remember, during the Banker Act, our government pledged you and me as collateral against the debt without telling us. Okay, that's why they feel like we're their property, because they pledged the infrastructure and they pledged the people on the land as collateral against the debt. And the whole goal is to consolidate the debt because we're considered to be the debt. Do you understand? So it's about consolidation, control, and management and elimination of the debt. And we just so happen to be that debt, right? We are like basically on the balance sheet and we are being experimented on by all these big corporations in America. Welcome to America, where the water has stanza fluoride in it and you get your fill of aspartame in every single drink, and all the seed oils that you eat are giving you cancer, and the glyphosate and all the other chemicals like the bisphenol A on all the receipts. The FDA had 7 plastics to choose from, but they chose just the one that gives, you cancer and gives you hormonal problems because it leaches an estrogen mimicking chemical. The cellophane wrapping on your TV dinner that you microwave. Well, you shouldn't be microwaving. First of all, get rid of your microwave. And second of all, don't eat TV dinners with that BPA plastic, because that plastic can give you hormonal cancer. And many people get that, because it is a sterilization program underway and men's sperm count is down by like 50% in the last 10 years. So something's going on, right, guys? So I'm just saying this is because we're under chemical assault, we're under mental assault, we're under physical assault, we're under environmental assault. And it's all done by design to create the crisis, to make you beg for your savior to come, not Jesus Christ, but these men posing as gods that are working together with basically fallen entities that lie to them and tell them, hey, you can have this position in power temporarily, but you know what I mean? But you got to do what we want you to do. So there's a hierarchy, a pyramidical structure, a hierarchy of evil calling the shots. And we don't even get to see the real people that run America and that actually manage and own America. We don't ever get to hear about those people.
For yourselves again, as I say, read The Agency by John Rainley, read Clouds of Secrecy by Leonard Cole, a professor from Rutgers, and you find that this program is still going on today. Read In Search of the Manchurian Candidate by John Marks, published by New York Times Press in 1979.
And they do this with, inciting religious fanaticism as well. They work in these churches, the CIA, they do a lot of programs, and they're trying to create super soldiers. They're trying to torture people and give people split personalities. because, when you're captured, you don't have to lie. You just go into your other personality through trigger words and keywords and phrases. And next thing you know, you got a super soldier that's able to be interrogated and not give up key information. So there's a lot of reasons why they were doing these experiments with MK Ultra. But I just want you to know that the torture and the satanic ritual abuse to torture people and traumatize them was done by the CIA and still done by the CIA, but they use electromagnetic weapons to torture you in your own home. And it's non-touch torture in a sense. And I'm not trying to twist the definition of that, but non-touch torture is when they can torture you basically without laying a hand on you and fry your organs in your house. So let's just keep going forward. If I hit a commercial, guys, I'll mute it, skip over it, and we'll just keep going forward. But the Manchurian candidates are all around us. These people that have been programmed to collapse and to implode and to cause pain and harm and misery. And, it is part of the hypnotism. It's part of the brainwashing and the propaganda and the subliminals and the frequencies and everything else that they're using to shape and control behavior.
Based on 14,000 documents gotten out of the CIA under the Freedom of Information Act, or go through the back issues of Covert Action Information Bulletin, which has a dozen solid articles about this program.
And you saw those bulletins, guys. You can go online and try to find them. And I mean, literally, domestic surveillance is one of the titles. I mean, it's just they've been wanting to watch us and examine us and then take that data and use it as actionable information. And, they decode our brainwaves. They decode our, visual cortex. They decode, our DNA. And basically, they can read your thoughts and know the pattern of your thinking before even you're conscious or aware of it. Okay. And they can read your inner dialogue. They can read your inner voice. Okay. And they can impersonate that voice. This is why it's so dangerous, because they can come in the form of your voice and get you to do a bunch of stupid things that you'd never otherwise do. And you'll think it's God speaking to you. This is what I'm trying to say, is that there's a real danger, and the CIA has been involved in, manufacturing cult leaders through world history. I mean, who do you think is involved in Waco? Who do you think was involved in, the Jim Jones movement? Who do you think was involved in the Marilyn Manson thing? Who do you think is behind the torture and the abuse and the experimentation done to create what the CIA wanted through all these programs of torture and abuse? And do you think they stopped it? No, they just get a slap on the wrist, say they end the program, and it gets put under another name and continues to escalate. And that's what they do. And why wouldn't they? Because nobody's there to stop them in this shadow parallel government that we have that is parallel to ours under the emergency orders.
Now, MK Ultra is the part they admit to, 175 projects. We officially know about 5. But here's what I couldn't stop thinking about. One of the men who built this program retired, wrote a letter to a friend, and then said, why not publish it? So they did. And what he wrote in that letter tells you everything you need to know about the kind of people running these programs.
Colonel White, one of the founders of this program,
Okay, before we get into this, and like I said, commercial comes, I'll skip it. But before we get into this, I just want to let you know that this is a revelation of the nature and psychology behind our enemies, behind the people that hate humanity, hate us. They hate God, they hate love, they hate peace. And war is peace. And that's how warped and depraved and reprobate their minds are, being conditioned by all these evil things and, saturating themselves in things and doing things that totally sear your conscience, and dislocate you from your humanity. And that's what they're busy doing to themselves and to others.
The founders of the CIA were retiring about the time I went in the mid-60s, wrote from retirement a letter about to a friend, and then agreed to have it published. Why not, he said. And so we have it in his handwriting. He wrote,
Yeah, why not? Because there's abject control. He knows, let's just publish what we're going to do to the American people, because nobody's going to stop us and nobody can even come close. You know what I mean? So they just you can see the narcissistic psychopathic nature of grandstanding and bragging and boasting and being pleased, with saying such wicked, evil things to be done to the American people and just authorize that.
I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the blessings of the All-Highest?
What a quote, isn't it? I mean, this is the way these people think, guys. This is a literal quote. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the blessings of the All-Highest? You mean Satan?
Then we have the MH Chaos program and the COINTELPRO program, CI and FBI programs, where they were manipulating student and labor organizations and civic organizations, disrupting them, trying to redirect them. We have the findings of the church.
Oh, you mean like the gang stalking programs and community-based policing in the name of keeping you safe and saving lives? You torture innocent people, break their property, follow them, come and go with them no matter what time of the day they come and go, use directed speech against them to let them know they're under surveillance in this psychological warfare. Break into their house with no forced entry, move their furniture around, do things like that seem to be insignificant but repeated in a frequency and a rate that can't be denied. It's like you'd have a better chance of getting struck by lightning, I say, because of the pattern and the frequency and the rate of this hostility that's manufactured, fake hostility and engineered to run intercepts on you and all your activity all day long. That's what they do. They run intercepts on you to block you, stop you, get in your way, slow you down, and frustrate you because they're looking to pitch you into some sort of reaction that is violent and dangerous because in the background, that's what they've labeled you as. It doesn't matter if there's proof or evidence. You've been profiled in, these systems of technology we have in place never make mistakes, okay? Because they've given themselves over to the worship of the technology and are handing all of society over to it to be automated and managed.
Church committee that they were getting journalists, up to about 200 journalists, including some of the biggest names in the business, and getting them to cooperate with the CIA to put its propaganda into our media so that we would be influenced with misunderstandings of what was happening in Southeast Asia, Korea, or China, or Central America, other parts of the world.
And Project Mockingbird, and it's always some far-off enemy. Just read 1984, George Orwell, and this is what they do with all these wars, is we're fighting that we have to look off to this faraway enemy and then just take their word for it, okay? And like people will argue down the rabbit holes as these liars just will legitimize staged scripted events and crises, and they just get on the news and have a bunch of different rabbit holes and arguments that support the original narrative and lie and are just like a foregone conclusion. And all that's talked about is just a legitimization of the false to uphold the original narrative that the government puts out.
That our government wanted to destabilize and attack and fight wars.
I didn't expect that. The way he says it, it almost feels like a joke. But it's not. It's a letter, in his own words. Someone who was there, writing about it years later. And once you hear it like that,
yeah, just go after conservatives, Christians, make war on everybody. You know what I mean? That seems like a plan because after all, the military industrial complex has to have something to do. And all these new technologies in their hands, it's the worst case scenario that could ever happen to all of us. You know what I'm saying? And because they keep us distracted with football and entertainment and all these other things in the music industry, well, you can just thank the CIA for that too. With all the rap that is CIA created, just like Ice Cube said, the same people that own the prisons and run the prison systems, run the music industry. And that's what Ice Cube said. You know what I mean? So there's many people that have come out and that connect the dots and realize this total full spectrum dominant system. And it is the system that is the machine that everybody's contributing to and surrendering to. And, this guy is getting into, the torture and the experimentation and the harassment and the COINTELPRO. And that's just all advanced to electromagnetic weapon systems being deployed and microwave pulse energy and neural remote monitoring and all these other systems and platforms that they have, the space fence, our body's been hooked to the cloud and a network like since the 1980s. Like, I mean, it just goes on and on with the layers of experimentation and damage.
It's hard to just brush it off, because what he starts describing after that doesn't feel isolated. It keeps showing up in different places around different groups, students, journalists, universities, all tied into the same kind of operations. And this is where it starts to get a little more.
You notice what this says? It says there appears to be a total of about 1,600 groups that have been targeted and listed improperly by the FBI. So it just shows how off and how wrong they are, and they just legitimize it by, labeling people and just by creating a shadowy enemy that can't be found and could be anyone, anywhere. We realize that they are basically declaring an open-ended war on us as citizens because anybody could be what they say. And so it leaves it into their hands and discretion to define. And that has been the problem as they adjust the meaning behind what it means to be a terrorist. Who is that? And they start openly just increasing the dragnet of who that means as they expand the definition and then target everybody selectively. So nobody can stop it because everybody's being targeted independently and selectively. And so there is no ability to come together because of what they're doing. And so this just shows you, even kids on the terrorist watch list, like maybe 8 years old, you know what I mean? Can't fly in a plane, gets taken out of school and interrogated. You know what I'm saying? So there's 1,600 groups that have been targeted and listed improperly by the FBI. Gee, I wonder, it's like the final report of the Senate committee's intelligence community, analysis of domestic operations in the United States and how I told you they just have been deployed in the United States along with the Marines, and they are engaging you in intermediate force tactics and intermediate force capabilities.
More concrete.
Co-opting professors to work with the CIA to manipulate student groups and build files on students, publishing 1,200 books in which they were paying professors, scholars, journalists to write books in their names. And these books are still in our libraries today because the Church Committee couldn't force the CIA to reveal the titles.
Everything is misdirection, everything is subterfuge and wheels within wheels, and everything is not what it appears, guys. That's the number one thing I wanted to say today is nothing is as it appears to be. So we have to pause when we see these things, and we have to open up our minds, open up our hearts, and pause and hang back and begin to learn and gain the knowledge base that we need, because these people are ruthless. And I'm just here to tell you because I love you and I care about you. These people are ruthless. And I fought against this stuff my whole life, my whole entire life. Before I was even old enough to defend myself, I was being put in the middle and run over by third parties and trained under satanic ritual abuse to give up all autonomy, basically. And just like many of you out there, you look back and you didn't realize, like, I was raised by a bunch of Freemason Satanists. That's great. And that's why they tortured me and gaslit me and called me crazy and mentally ill when I would react bad to their abuse. They never wanted to look at their abuse. Okay. And what leads up to the bad reaction when you push and push and push using abuse to try to get somebody to react. And then when they step into that role that you've cast for them, then you play the victim and pretend that that person is doing the very thing that you're doing to them. And that's the type of demons that we're wrestling here, because the battle is not against flesh and blood. And these demons are in our family members. And minus that, this technology is so sophisticated that it can simulate all that.
CIA propaganda, so that if you're doing your dissertation on the Vietnam War, for example, probably 1 or 2 dozen of the books that you'll have in your bibliography, if not more, will in fact be CIA propaganda.
Okay, guys, just a quick commercial. I'm just going to mute it really quick and let this go by, because they love to, a lot of channels, they put commercials.
Yes, and try to discern which is which. And this is not ancient history. FBI Director William Sessions announced about this time last year that he was disciplining officers that he found had been improperly targeting CSPIS and 160 other civic organizations. And this summer, the Congressional Committee said there were a total of 1,600 groups that had been targeted.
I mean, guys, they're in our media, they're in the medical industry, they're in the music industry, they're in the movie industry, they're in every area. You understand, in the government, okay, and it's saturated. So that's why we're seeing this tipping point where we're being, handheld and led up to the edge of the cliff. And they want you to jump off. That's what they try to coerce you to do as they abuse you with death by a thousand cuts. So you just are led to the edge. And then, they're so repetitive in the nature and pattern of the abuse that they're doing to citizens. It's consistent. It's a pattern. It's the frequency and the rate. And guys, like I said, they don't even have to do abuse per se. They just have to constantly run contact on you that's unwanted. And the people don't even have to be doing anything, but you recognize because you've been sensitized that these people are there for you. And they let you know it through their mocking and gaslighting and filming you and provoking you and doing all the tactics of abuse and control. And plus they wear their gang colors. For me, it's red and white. So they're anchoring you, color sensitizing you, using directed speech, using street theater, scripted hostile acts around the target, street theater, to engage you, to involve you, to get you into reacting to them so that they can all agree together that you did it and not them when you react to it. See, and they just point and say you're crazy and mentally ill. They don't want to talk about the mega abuse that they're hiding and doing to you every day, 24/7, day and night, like on shifts. Okay, this is like a job for them. That's what it seems with the level of intensity where, it doesn't matter where you go. You're just followed around and harassed and property damaged, and people are, spitting at you when you go on a walk, and 10 out of 10 are spitting at you in front of you when you walk with some sort of mean mug on their face, And when you're like, hey, dude, what's up? They don't want to talk. They just keep mean mugging you and staring at you and then chuckle and then go away. But when you got 10 out of 10 people doing that on a short walk, that's not right. Each person you pass does that. So there's this mind control that we see and this sinking of this like hive-minded type actions, really, that the perps take, and we witness it. And we see that there must be some sort of sinking going on because in order to come outside at the same time as you every time and present themselves in a parallel way to you in everything you do, there has to be some sort of mechanism of control and abuse. And it really is silent weapons systems and EMF broadcasts that have been weaponized to do so.
And listed, as they say, improperly by the FBI. Again, the same type of programs as the MH Chaos and COINTELPRO programs, and that's just FBI. The CIA was doing the same thing during the same period of time, but there's been no confession or revelation of what they were doing, nor has there been a...
Again, I just wanted to say, since they're showing Tim Osmond, a CIA agent who was implicated in 9/11, and remember that in the 1980s, Russia was in Afghanistan and the United States was also in Afghanistan fighting over the poppy fields, right? And so what our government did, just like the Russians and many governments do this, they create a third-party proxy army that they fund, train, and then deploy. And those people are there to take care of the interests of the United States government and as well as Russia at the time. And those groups were fighting each other over the poppy fields so that, the government can just deny its involvement and use these groups to be able to get what they want, which was the poppies. Okay. And so it's like a lot of this has just been, drug funding that's been going on, invading different countries and areas. 7 different countries that the Project for the New American Century, go look it up. The Project for the New American Century calls for all of this in invading 7 different countries, and those very countries, we're on the last one, I believe, that we read out of that document calling for all this before it happened. And then, of course, using 9/11 as the pretext for you to give up your rights and enter under martial law or a police state where they prosecute a war this way. And terrorism is just an excuse to do that. Same with the sustainability development. It's all about selling you austerity and taking away your basics to live and survive. And they'll do the dog training and shut off the power deliberately and train you just to be like North Korea. Do you know what I mean? Where they just shut off the power, even though they have the power, endless power, but they train you by artificial scarcity to accept worse and worse, less and less. And the intelligence services are very heavily involved operating domestically, doing all these things, using all these tactics, military style warfare tactics on citizens. That's why they keep putting nails in your car, in your tire. That's why they keep keying your car. That's why they keep running into you when you're on the freeway doing picket surveillance or box surveillance that you can't get out of. Each adjustment you make has been gamed. It is the hyper game theory. Each adjustment you make is collapsed and controlled. And so it forces the engagement. It forces the interaction. You can't just get away from it because each adjustment you make to remove yourself from the hostility, you are collapsed into having to only face these people that are trying to get at you. And they break down every escape, every de-escalation. And that is how they force an engagement and an interaction with you. And really what it does is it breaks your boundaries so much in such an authorized, legitimized way that it starts to create a sense of hopelessness. You know what I mean? That these people can just do whatever they want to you and damage you and devalue the quality of your life in so many areas and so many things, and nothing happens to stop it. And family and friends participate in it. And we're really discouraged about that. We're really heartbroken about that. We pleaded, we begged, everything we warned them came to pass. But they don't want to come to us and say, wow, you really have a gift. And this is obviously of God. And then just be sorry for the lies, the slander, the smear campaigns, doing criminal things in my name, pretending to be me doing it, things like that.
Publication of the lists of the names of the groups that were targeted. So if you had trouble in one of your groups, you can only guess if it was because of FBI or CI disruption or just pure and simply human foible.
And again,
disruption. You just remember that word. And that is what they do all day long to me. I go to the mailbox, I'm disrupted. I go to my car, I'm disrupted. I go on a walk, I'm disrupted. And not just once, but hundreds of times. It's not natural, it's not normal. You guys know what I'm talking about. I go to the store, I'm followed, and I'm interfered with. And whatever I reach for is contended over in a competition game. And warfare that can be done hidden in plain sight just because of all the plausible deniability that goes along with these abusers.
and none of this feels completely new. Most people already assume that information can be influenced, that narratives get shaped. But hearing how deep that can go, it shifts it a bit. Because it's not just news or headlines. It touches education, research, even the books people rely on to understand the world. And at that point, it starts raising a slightly different question. Not just what people are told, but how they end up seeing things that way in the first place.
We began the conditioning to war in this country, this permanent war complex we maintain, pretending we're good guys at the age of 2. This is the age at which we put our children in front of the one-eyed babysitter and turn it on so we can go wash the dishes or take a break. And they watch the same show with different characters 10 or 15 times a day.
And all have the same message, basically, the same programming, the same manipulation. It's uniform, it's all together, and it's an agenda and a program of obedience and slavery. And you are even trained to love your slavery and to want to take the short end of the stick for the greater good.
Talking about, I have a kid, so I'm into these things. He-Man and Sheena and Scooby-Doo even, and the Transformers and the Decepticons, and what each one of these nice little people put upon by ugly evil forces, always saying, please be nice, The evil forces insist on attacking, and at the last minute, the good guys rise up and stomp them down.
I mean, just think about that psychology since we've been young, whether it's Disney, it doesn't matter who it is, pushing the propaganda on us. But just think about the subliminals, think about all the messaging and what they've done to all of us, where we are saturated with lie upon lie, lie upon lie, and even our cosmology. It doesn't really matter what topic it is. We know that we've been lied to about everything, and that this artificial activity has been going on in the background like a low-grade fever, and it's making Americans sick. And nobody seems to know what's going on because of the nature of asymmetrical warfare, because of how the war and guerrilla warfare is rolled out on the streets. How do they roll out communism on the streets? You ever wonder that? Could it be that these social justice groups are just entities of the state, created by the state, funded by the state, to be those manufactured enemies, to give up your rights, to give up your freedom? Because that's what they're doing, guys.
Cut, commercial, and we move on, to the next show. Until it's estimated when we graduate from high school, we spent more time watching violence on television than we've spent in the classrooms itself. And then you get into the movies we've been feeding ourselves during this military buildup.
And just remember that, guys. I mean, I can't even watch movies anymore because it just seems to me like the same narrative over and over and over, guys.
Rambo, Commando, Red Dawn, the Rocky series, Under Siege, Delta Force, America, Missing in Action, Top Gun, Heartbreak Ridge, Death Before Dishonor, Platoon, Hamburger Hill, Tour of Duty.
Yeah, and all those movies really support the commercials that you see during the time of war where, a military guy gets off a plane at the airport in his fatigues and his daughter runs up to him and, jumps in his arms and they do a spin together, and then he gets down on one knee and says all these things to his daughter. These are all really idealistic images for what real life is. It's not relatable to what real life really is like, you know what I mean? But it's just all this propaganda. You're our heroes, you're our saviors, you're our heroes, you're our saviors. And many men go to war and fight and pledge, thinking that they're going to serve America and our country and freedom and spread democracy around the world and all these things. And really, that's not the case at all. The military is controlled and owned by the big banks, and they have their own agenda and print the money for the whole world. Okay. And so it doesn't matter if you understand this, all the nations are linked together under that and are controlled fully under that. So we're not fighting other countries that we're in lockstep with, even though they pretend like we're against these other countries and they're against us. This satanic New World Order has been here since 1776. I mean, that's what I believe, because you just see this breakaway thing happening with the leadership and the Freemasons that were involved, pledging their allegiance to Lucifer being released from the bottomless pit. And we got the symbology in the Big Apple. We got the Statue of Liberty, Apollo. The chains are broken on the ankles, signifying his release. And he's holding the torch up for his grand hurrah in his little season. I mean, that's what he's doing. So we got the statue of Lucifer where he's sitting down and his crown is taken off his head and he's got the torch on the ground and his chains are fully fastened. But then you move to the Statue of Liberty or Apollo, whatever you want to call it. It's representative of Lucifer, the light bearer. That's why he's holding the torch in his hands, in arrogance and pride in the Big Apple. No coincidence, guys. And the chains are broken on his feet. So he's been released. And all these men at the time of the Revolutionary Wars and at the time of the Declaration of Independence signed their life away to the devil. That's how serious it is. That's why we're seeing this satanic agenda taking place in the desensitizing and the baptizing or the externalization of the hierarchy.
China Beach, and they go on and on. How many people saw the movie Red Dawn, by the way? This is fun. Don't be embarrassed. It's a great movie. Now, this story, it's science fiction. The producer of this movie went on television around the nation saying it was his purpose to create a movie that would make people, that would draw people back to war, that would make them feel war could be a good and exciting thing. And this film was actually shown in Marine boot camps to motivate people, and the National Guard groups that were about to go down to train in Honduras for the possible invasion of Nicaragua. The science fiction is that they have a force, as you recall, of Russians, Cubans, and Nicaraguans who've invaded the United States, and they've gotten all the way to the Rocky Mountains. Now, you ask yourself why, the planning as they did the movie, why did they pick Russians, Cubans, and Nicaraguans? I mean, it would be a better movie if they picked Russians, Canadians, and Cubans. See, because Canada is an industrial country and there's a huge border, and there could be the Russians coming across at 100 places and pinning us against Cuba. I mean, you could kind of get your head in. I mean, it's all science fiction, you know, blow off our nuclear weapons and our army and all of that. This is the given. So why did they pick Nicaragua instead of, say, Canada? And the answer is, of course, they were targeting Nicaragua for a possible invasion by U.S. troops. So they had to condition the people that Nicaragua would be the next enemy, the next target. Anyway, this force gets...
And guys, this is predictive programming. This is what we talk about. And you guys know it's in the movies, and it's put that way in fictional movies to, you know, create that really competition in people's minds so that when they see the real deal happen, you know, they just refer back to the cartoon they watched where it happened. And then they make the connection, kind of like guilt by association type thing. But they like make the connection, you know, that way that, you know, what this guy is talking about, speaking the truth, must be crazy because I just saw this in The Simpsons. Okay. And we know The Simpsons is fake. It's just a cartoon, man. Don't you get that? But see, that's the way they roll. They put this stuff in that, in the music, in the movies, in the sitcoms, real events, and blend it together with fantasy so that it creates this stagnation and creates this really the big hindrance, you know, because it holds people hostage in their thinking. And we just have to get past the fact that the CIA and our government is very interested in the civilians and operating domestically. And they're actually like enjoying it and liking it and rejoicing about it.
It's all the way to the Rocky Mountains, where they're eventually stopped by the high school football team. Now, I submit to you that the 80s, you see, is the decade of the middle-aged women. This is, you know, Dallas and Dynasty and the Golden Girls and Murder, She Wrote. Linda Evans, you know, is in better physical condition than I am, and Joan Collins is older than I am, and she's a sex symbol in the Nautilus workouts and the jogging. I mean, an 80s movie would have been the Soviets, Cubans, and Nicaraguans with middle-aged school teachers running through the mountains and shooting them down and drinking deer's blood and all of that. So why did they pick the high school football team? You see, the answer is obvious. They're going to fight the next war with the 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. It's not going to be the middle-aged 50-year-olds. We're too smart. We've seen the cynicism of war. We wouldn't buy it. It's at that age, the high school graduates, where the young men are suffering from their massive doses of testosterone poisoning. And their minds have not yet had a chance to be filled, for all of them. Some are precautious, but many of them have not yet had a chance to fill their minds with experience, to understand what the world is all about, to understand how they're being used. So that's why they targeted that film at the high school. And then you look at the ads on television that were pumping at us then and now. Join the Army, be all that you can be, with these tanks jumping ditches and helicopters going 200 miles an hour. And so, you know, then I say, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's missing, you know?
It's like they approach the general population. You could be Rambo, you can be Agent 007, you know, and it's all this deception to get you to commit. And then later on, you realize the truth of reality and the truth of what's really going on and how you're just being used and you were lied to.
Where are the young men with their legs blown off at the knees, with their intestines wrapped around their necks? And the answer is that these things are not meant to educate. See, that's where they're reaching inside people's breasts and pressing buttons and manipulating people to join the Army and be all that you can be and be available to be sent down to Central America to kill people and to die for your country.
All right, guys, we're just going to mute this commercial. I'm just going to let it play through. and we're going to get back to this video. Thanks for staying with me, guys. Let's just keep going.
Insidious ad I think I've seen in all of the days that I've watched television. This is the one of the soldier coming home on vacation in uniform, handsome young man. He's met by his brother. I think he's getting off a train, and he says, "Dad never did understand why I joined the Army." And then they're driving, and he says, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" And the boy says, "Well, you know, Dad." And then they get in the living room, and the young soldier says, "Dad," and the father turns and hugs him, and all's forgiven. Now, what's the point? They must have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this ad. What's the point? The point, you see, is that there are a lot of fathers in this country that are saying, do not join the Army. They've seen the Vietnam War and the Korean War, and they've seen the cynicism, and they're telling their sons not to join the Army. And this ad is saying that it's okay, according to the values of U.S. society, to defy your father.
I mean, think of what was done with Agent Orange, Vietnam, and remember the Ho Chi Minh Trail when they seeded the clouds and made it rain and rain and rain and flood. Just remember that they can do that, and I can't imagine what they can do now.
Father, and join the Army.
In listening to all of that, it's easy to think this is just about perception, how people are influenced, what they're led to believe. But it doesn't really stop there. Because those same environments, the same places where these operations happen, don't just shape narratives. They leave something behind. And sometimes it's a lot more tangible than just an idea.
It's drugs. Every major area.
Yeah, and by the way, when they invade, they collapse, they break down the area, and then they impose a police state or, martial law, and then they, will get radicals and hire a bunch of local radicals, to be the local police for them and terrorize the population that's left over under this broken mess that they create. And so they ship in the drugs and they bring in the drugs just like the fentanyl crisis. I mean, I've never seen so many people as zombies in the streets of Seattle and Portland and San Francisco. And it's just the zombie apocalypse. Like literally people are just all over the streets and needles all over the streets. So it's just incredible when you realize that drugs are used as a form of warfare to kill masses of people. And that's what they're doing. Our government alone is just allowing it, letting it happen. In some of these states, it's just authorized, I guess. Nobody stops it. And so, tons of people, you wouldn't believe it. And all of you who know and have been out to Portland or Seattle and that part of the country realize just how messed up it's gotten. Okay. And what all these policies and these tactics of warfare committed on the American people really cause. And so all social life is changing, and there's a radicalizing of the environment and the relationships. And that is what they're doing intensely, especially through community-based policing, where they get to torture you and then just have the moral high ground because they label you.
Area of operation in which the CI has worked has left behind a major functioning drug cartel. Again, this is a major subject we could talk about all night. I'll just mention it. We can go back to it in detail if you like in the question and answer. The French connection grew directly from the OSS, the CI's predecessors, getting Lucky Luciano out of prison and funding him to activate the mafia to work with the U.S. forces during the war and then right after the war to break up the strikes on the docks in Marseille. The Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia grew directly out of our covert policies there. Before it had been run by French intelligence with the Corsican mafia, we took over with our Air America and civil air transport planes flying in arms to our allies, flying back out with the heroin. The first target being U.S. GIs during the Vietnam War, the second target being the United States itself. The Golden Crescent. Afghanistan, of course, is the largest covert operation the CI has run to date. We understand in terms of the hundreds of millions of dollars it's cost, going on for over a year. And sure enough, after about 6 years, the Golden Crescent in that area becomes the largest source of heroin in the world today. See for yourselves. If you like to get your information from video, see Guns, Drugs, and the CIA, the Frontline PBS show, or read for yourselves. Read The Great Heroin Coup by Heinrich Kruger. Read the Iran.
Yeah, I wonder if these people could actually target Americans and use these less than lethal means of torture and abuse on Americans to control people. I wonder.
Contra Connection by Peter Dale Scott. Read The Politics of Heroin in Southeast Asia by Al McCoy. Read The Cocaine Wars by Paul Eddy. Read Out of Control by Leslie Coburn. Read Mafia Kingfish by John Davis. Read The Senator Must Die by Bob Morrow.
All right, guys, and so he just is going on and on. Again, another commercial that I have to skip here because that seems to be the case, talking about this topic all the time, it seems, even when they say there's no commercials.
What he's saying is actually pretty simple. In these operations, you have planes moving in and out, weapons going one way, money coming back the other. And once those routes exist, they don't just get used for one thing. They get used for whatever fits through them, including drugs. If you've seen American Gangster, that idea probably sounds familiar. Different context, obviously, but the same basic mechanism. And the key point he keeps coming back to is this. There aren't short-term situations. These networks stay in place long after the operation.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it seems like something's kind of hacking my audio and disrupting the audio because I play this on another browser too, and it was just fine. So I apologize about that. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like this is being interfered with as I'm playing it. And of course, I usually have videos that don't have commercials all over them because of the topic. I don't like to put commercials in a topic like this. So because I don't want the interruption because it's such a serious topic that, a lot of channels that are just, speaking about gang stalking, trending, as a trending topic maybe, and that's their motive, then that's good for them. But for me, I just don't want to have to do that. And I think it's much better that way. But then again, when we cover these videos, a lot of people do monetize and do decide to do that. But let's get through this, guys.
Itself is over. So at some point, it's not just about what was done. It's about who makes sure it never really comes out.
I worked for George Bush personally at the end of the Angolan operation when he was CIA director in 1976. We had broken the law and we had perjured ourselves to cover it up. We being Henry Kissinger and Bill Colby, mostly me being in a staff position under them. Bush's policies were not to find out the truth and punish the perpetrators and clean up the CIA. It was to cover for us. He went to the congressional committees and said, I wasn't here, but these nice people I'm meeting, he's a very nice person, by the way. He would walk down the hall shaking our hands saying, hello, I'm George Bush, and I want you to know I love being here working with all these fine people in the CIA. And we were saying, huh? I mean, this is the CIA director is supposed to have kind of an aura, but he was going to the Congress saying, I can't believe that these nice people out there would do the things that you're alleging, but I'll check. And then he had a young attorney sent down to my office to go through my files to purge them of documents that would prove exactly what they were accusing us of. And then he went back to them and said, we've checked, there are no files in the agency that prove anything like.
Everything goes missing suddenly right on time, and everything is burnt up, no proof, no evidence, and I just don't even know what you're talking about, right? That's what they do. It's just constant gaslighting, psychopathic twisting, and it's always about calling evil good and good evil. And, Bush doesn't realize that kind of mindset is warped and twisted and inverted. And a child could understand that.
Like you're alleging, therefore you can drop it. And they did.
That part stays with you. Not even what happened, just how it was handled and how easily everything moves on from there.
We're here to keep you safe and save lives.
Second most profitable industry in the world, of course, is the production of arms. $3 billion a day bought and sold of weapons. The defense corporations making 20 to 24% profit. We just got through spending a total of $2.2 trillion on the largest arms buildup perhaps in the history.
But, we also pose as the victim of a lot of different things in order to empower ourselves in that regard. This government does that. So, but look at the numbers when it comes to the military industrial complex. And There's trillions of dollars going to surveilling us, managing us, interrupting our lives, and restructuring everything.
History of the world, certainly of any peacetime arms buildup, and our debt increasing by just about exactly the same amount during that period of time. The result is that we've created a society that's dominated by what President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex. The U.S. taxpayer is now carrying a gigantic burden.
And that's to break you, to, keep you in check and to control you, taking away your choices, taking away your good life, taking away the options that you can create and have by just having some sort of stability. And that's what they're attacking all the time, is your ability to stand independently and autonomous. And for all of us, this is what they're doing.
1/3 of our budget is for the military. 53 cents, according to the Washington Post, of every tax dollar goes to the military.
And when he gets to this part, it kind of pulls everything together. Not in a dramatic way, just in numbers. You start seeing where all of it leads, what it costs, and who ends up carrying it.
Now,
all right, guys, just getting through these commercials. So I just wanted to say that it's just amazing.
The result, of course.
And of course, he who controls the weather controls the world. Don't forget that. And I'm just circling the man that said that, I believe.
Of this runaway arms race that we've got going with this expenditure, giant expenditures.
And this is turned into the electromagnetic weaponry and full spectrum dominance over the cellular activity and over the brainwave activity and the nervous system activity of the targets. Okay, and that's all of us are under this. And this is where it's gone. So they just keep escalating their domination and control and abuse.
On the military is that we can't afford it. We're having to cut every conceivable social service. We can't afford to care for the old people or the poor people or the handicapped people or the farmers or to help the young people get through college. And we're gutting Social Security to cover the deficit. I repeat, you and I, if you've got a job, we're taxed. The FICA tax, it's 15%. Your employer pays 7.5%. If you're self-employed like me, you pay all 15%. And this is your retirement. You're supposed to get that back when you're 65. And they're spending that money like it was windfall profits to cover the deficit that they've run up on the production of.
I mean, they even sell people's pensions and get rid of people's pensions and trade them on the stock market and lose them. I mean, that's the way these criminals roll because they feel like they can do anything they want. I mean, their buddies print the money.
Arms. The real deficits are running about $300 billion. They're calling them $152 billion. The difference they're claiming against borrowing against the Social Security Retirement Fund that belongs to us. And they're spending it on their military today. What's happening is that the United States has plunged relative to the rest of the world. 25% of the people in this country are now functionally illiterate. We're 6th in the world in terms of the percentage of children in school. We're 10th in the world in quality of education. We're 7th in the world in terms of life expectancy. We're 20th in the world in terms of infant mortality. To sell these sacrifices to the American people, the world has to be hostile and dangerous. If the world were peaceful, we would never put up with this kind of expenditure.
Yes, like exactly. That's what I'm trying to say too, is that, they condition you to accept a new low and keep doing it by death by 1,000 cuts. And then eventually you just start to accept it because of the repetitive nature of it and how it never goes away. The collapse in the control game that they're playing with you and playing with me, that collapse and control game that they're playing. And, it's just one crisis after the next, after the next, after the next, done by psychopaths, done by covert, malignant, narcissistic, sadistic psychopaths. That's what they do. And that's how they gain power and control and put themselves in a position of superiority.
That you're on arms.
And after all of that, this is the part I paid the most attention to. Because it's not really about information anymore. It's about what you do with it.
We're all disempowered. We're all so helpless. The individual here in Washington or in Maine, where I was a couple of nights ago, or in South Texas or California, what can I do? And it's a tough one. We're up against the power structure. We're up against the military-industrial complexes with the media bought and woven right into the things, and it's a tough one. But the professor who stopped the war is a wonderful, to me, inspiring example. My war in Angola. Then young Professor Jerry Bender of UC San Diego, who had done his studies in Angola, and he saw what we were doing, and they bothered him. And he couldn't figure out what to do about it. How could he stop it? So one day he picked up the telephone and he called his senator. And he said, Senator Tunney, I have an expertise on Angola. I see what the CIA is doing. I think they're lying to you. I think it's dangerous. I would like the opportunity to brief you. I will not waste your time. And the senator listened to him and came back to Washington and found that we were indeed lying to the Congress. And he introduced the Tunney Amendment to the FY76 Defense Appropriation Act that stopped my war in Angola. Now, some years ago,
They were probably planning on ending it anyway, because none of these laws restrict these people. Okay, they're criminals and they don't obey the law in the first place.
To talk to Admiral LaRocque at the Center for Defense Information here in Washington because I was way over my head to ask him, people ask me, Admiral, I said, what can I do? And I don't know what to tell them specifically. And this beautiful old man, we were having breakfast at his home, and he stood up. He said, I love that question. He said, I tell people, I don't know you, but you know yourselves. You know what your capabilities are. He said, I tell people if you can write articles, write letters, write books, write telegrams. If you can organize. If you can travel, go to Nicaragua or the Las Vegas test sites and see for yourself so you can be an intelligent witness to what's happening in the world. He said, and I quote, I tell people if they feel comfortable lying down in front of bombs, trucks with bombs on them, to lie down in front of trucks with bombs on them. But he said, I tell them you've got to do what you can do every day of your life. You can't wait until you graduate next summer or get married or get divorced or get a job, because these things malfunction all the time and they're controlled by intellectual giants like Ronald Reagan. And the world may not be here by the time you graduate next summer or get divorced or get a...
And that's so true, guys. I just wanted to share that, break that down, just make a couple comments on it. But we're just looking at this power structure, and we're looking at the enforcement arm of the power structure, basically. And we're seeing that everything this man said about the CIA is true and accurate. And this was done, I believe, in 1987 or 88, I believe. I don't know the exact year, but this was done so long ago. And look at what they've been doing. And he just totally breaks it down for us. So I think it's good to check this out, guys. And just remember, there is a war being prosecuted against you. Whether you know it or not, or aware of it or not, or even think so or not, that's the facts. And, the sooner we get our minds around the fact that these crises and breakdowns and collapse game they're playing is all by design, we wake up and people wake up and, maybe we'll have a better chance of our survival. And that's pretty much why I'm here. I love you guys. God bless. Peace out. So guys, just breaking this down, this is your perfect, superhero villain, that you'd see in the movies, basically. The guy comes out, in robes that are down to his ankles, like these gelatheums, basically, looking like he just got off the ship of Star Trek, basically, or Star Wars. Like he looks like the Emperor in Star Wars when he's wearing that robe that he wears during the time of the Great Reset, he called it. He just so happened to have a book already published and basically ghost written for him, calling for a Great Reset and using the crisis in 2020 as a great opportunity to do things that you normally couldn't do, just like Rahm Emanuel says. So they might be the ones creating the crisis, don't you think? If they're only talking about crises as opportunities to bring their control and their domination and power and subjection on all of us, you shall eat bugs, you shall have nothing and be happy. That's the guy that says it right here. Just get a good look at his face. This is who wants to rule and reign over you and dominate you and put you into a 15-minute city. And he wants to surveil you to death And basically, this is the guy that really crafted a lot of the policy and stuff like that that we saw nations obeying in lockstep during 2020 under this worldwide communism, under the health scare crisis, to train us, to get us to accept, this suffering that they want to bring on us, and then tell us it's for the greater good so that, nobody responds and reacts appropriately to the death and the destruction and the murder that's created by a collapse and control game with everything in our lives. But don't worry about that because they know better and they will decide for you. Because after all, you've begged them to keep you safe and save lives, and that's what you think they're there for. Even though the Supreme Court has ruled that local sheriff's offices all across the country are not, in fact, there to do that. You better go look that up. They're there to generate revenue for the state, just so you know. So there's this propaganda we need to break, and this is Klaus Schwab. And, I was just going to say that, the new telehealth, the AI health care system, or telehealth or remote healthcare is about broadcasting signals and beams into your body and altering your body at the cellular level using mRNA and other such gene therapies as the baseline for all medicine. So if you want to get better, if you want to feel better and you're sick and you got something wrong because they've created an environment that destroys our bodies and is anti-human, and to drive you into the arms of their solution. And they're just going to say, hey, we can heal diseases. We can strengthen your immune system like never before. We can get rid of cancer. Just take this mRNA shot and you will have your gene therapy, because all of medicine is going that direction, and especially the remote style of using frequencies to broadcast on people and do customized medicine remotely this way and on the cellular level, okay, on the DNA level and on the molecular level, okay? And that is what these systems that surround us, all of us worldwide, that's what these systems create and do. Total full-time, live time surveillance happening 24/7 in live time that these control freaks have access to. And like I said, you're going to eat bugs, you're going to have nothing and be happy if this guy has his way. And he doesn't believe human beings, deserve to go on as they are because of how rebellious they are. There needs to be world peace. And of course, they don't tell you that bringing world peace is giving up your humanity and merging into human 2.0, which all of this has been dog training to get you ready to accept things you otherwise would never accept unless you're desperate. And that is what I'm trying to say to you guys is I'm like the canary in the coal mine, seeing afar off and letting you know that I've experienced a lot of what they're saying and a lot of what they're doing, and it's rolled out and it's getting closer and closer to home. Let me just say that. And many family members, they went in 2020, they got the first jabby jab, the second one, the third one, because after they got the jab, they went and got tested, and then they had the C-19. You know what I'm saying? So they just kept saying, oh, get this one, then get another one because this one doesn't work because you got to have this one, and then you got to have this one. And it never ends. It's a never-ending hoop that they want you to jump through. And that's why they give you the most ridiculous counsel and advice and measures to see how much control you're going to give over to nonsensical conditions and standards that they impose on you. They want to see, are you going to be thinking for yourself, autonomous, independent, research, question everything, or are you just going to go along with this agenda to become human 2.0 and literally a robot hijacked and controlled? And we've talked about how the supercomputers run these automated systems as well of surveillance and these weapon systems that can be used to torture you all day, all night, all day, all night. And this guy is totally behind the problem because America has been hijacked through the Banker Act. And these are the people that print the money and give it to the nations worldwide and also give it to their buddies. They're not like you and me. They've never worked a day in their lives, and they are part of a class of society that is installed over us. And then they just want you to buy into, you're part of the power structure. You have a choice. Here's some fake voting. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then that takes away your drive, your energy for real change, because it's all just gatekeeping and all just dead end roads. And that's why things don't change, obviously. And Klaus Schwab loves gene editing. He loves it. You know, DNA modifying shots. He loves that. And let's just listen to this. There might be some commercials. I'll have to just try to get through it. But these videos, unfortunately, have so many commercials. And I think they do that deliberately to keep people from actually even watching it. But we're going to get through it. We're going to go through it because it's important to know your enemies, to know who's calling the shots, to know who's over you, to know who's ruling and in power over you, and who are the perverted minds that have said stand 6 feet apart and putting arrows in the grocery store on the floor. It's all professional marketing, all rolled out at the same time, billboards and everything, and signs and stickers and posters and everything, all at the same time. And we tried to tell our family and warn our family that this isn't what it appears to be, but they don't want to listen. They just run headlong and jump off the cliff. Okay, so let's get into this and let's just hear what Mr. Klaus Schwab has to say about his agenda and his plans for the New World Order.
The difference of this forced industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example.
It changes you if you take the genetic editing, just for an example.
It's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of...
Remember what I said, guys, it's a warfare against your identity. They're trying everything they can for those of us that have an identity and know who we are. We're not questioning who we are. We're not guessing who we are. We have experienced our identity, solid and unmovable and unshakable, and it is who we are. It's not that we're pretending and acting and performing like most people. We actually have a real identity that got shaped and formed. And this guy wants to take that away because they have this plan and agenda to bring us all to zero and then remake humanity so that they can easily manage us. You get it, guys? So let's keep going in this short little video.
Possibilities that have to be careful about. When you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you were changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industry.
It's a problem for him. That's an obstacle for him. That resistance. That's not a good thing.
The revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it. And that's what we want to do in Davos next year.
Talk about technology.
And they're going to prepare for it and skate through and just, no laws will stop these people. And the fox is guarding the hen house, like I've always said. And the very people creating the problem are posing as the savior and providing us these sick and diabolical and castrating solutions that really are conditioning the people to accept worse and worse and not respond or react in a healthy, proper, intelligent way.
Knowledge and have the ways it can be deployed, that contribute to growth rather than exacerbate unemployment. How will that implement itself?
It's a big question.
This guy's talking about unemployment. It has nothing to do with the level of what this guy just said. Such misdirection and such minimization. when this guy is talking about changing humanity and editing people's genetic code.
Mark, because there is a fear that technology, robots, just to take one
you get
element,
productivity from machines.
Exactly, and it replaces maybe the workforce or jobs faster than we can replace them with new jobs. Not everybody can be a robot polisher and so on, so there will be new jobs.
Right, guys. So you heard Klaus Schwab, and he, is really busy trying to implement genetic modification worldwide and changing us from human to controllable robots. And basically, there's many different platforms and things that they deploy on us. It is endless. And then we look at Dr. Chinda Brandolino, I believe is her name, and how she was referring to the technology that makes it possible for Bluetooth to read codes in inoculated individuals. So you can see that there was all these complaints around the time of 2020 where people were actually discovering Bluetooth signals coming from the body with like MAC addresses. And the mainstream media, they just say, oh, you better fact check that. And of course, Google will tell you what uh, is true or not. But let's play this video real quick. I'm going to break it down. It's not in English, but there's subtitles. So let's take a look real quick.
¿Cómo salta este código por
So this guy's saying, how does the Bluetooth code appear? The one that can be read after having been vaccinated. How does that happen?
Bluetooth? O sea, a través de la vacuna. ¿Cómo así? Gracias.
Simplemente
It's simply a metallic nomenclature that is introduced. We've talked about the graphene oxide.
es una nomenclatura metálica que está introducida. Pensar que
And then she says, think that a nanometer must be a millionth of a billionth.
un nanómetro es la millonésima parte de milímetro. Millones. Nuestra mente no
Our mind can perceive the size of something small, can it?
alcanza a percibir el tamaño tan pequeño, ¿no es cierto? De manera que
So that inscription, she says, obviously is recorded at the inoculation site of the vaccine, she says.
esa inscripción evidentemente queda registrada en el lugar de inoculación de la vacuna, no en el
Not in the rest of the organism, but in the inoculation site of the vaccine, she's saying, this doctor.
resto del organismo, sino en el lugar de inoculación de la vacuna. Lo puedes verificar tú.
You can verify it yourself, eh?
Eso lo hizo un tal.
This was developed by a certain company, I guess she's saying, at the request of Bill Gates, which these are just, the people that they show us aren't the true people that are in control. They're just like foot soldiers, basically. But yes. So this doctor's saying anything he's really involved in is probably not good for you.
Hugh, por pedido de Bill Gates, cómo se podía introducir.
And he studied how that code could be introduced at the time with an indelible ink into the DNA in the human body.
En su momento con una tinta que sea indeleble ese código en el cuerpo humano. Por supuesto tiene.
Of course, the material has to be metallic. I tell you again, it has to be an emitter and a receiver of microwaves. So there it is.
Tiene que ser metálico, como te vuelvo a decir, para ser emisor y receptor de esas microondas. Así que allí está. Cualquiera de ustedes lo puede verificar.
Any of you can verify it, the doctor said.
Esto estaba.
This was forewarned a long time ago. And then she says, it was, just let me think.
Avisado hace mucho tiempo fue, déjame pensar, Luz Montañez ya lo había avisado.
There's just a list of doctors that she's listing that tried to speak up about this before it was imposed on all of us in 2020. And then the punishment measures came to anyone who didn't go along with it, if you remember, because they love you and want to keep you safe.
Otros, como el doctor Hammer, hubo médicos hace ya 30 años.
She's saying that doctors already 30 years ago had this technology.
Que avisaron que se iba a introducir.
And who warned that a kind of chip was going to be introduced with the label that would allow being identified. And this is a multi-platform system. This is not the technology that targeted individuals necessarily are being targeted by, and it is a lesser thing, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the technology, because they don't need to chip you to read body data. So all of this is just probably wheels within wheels, layers within layers of misdirection, but it just shows and illustrates the torture and the experimentation that's being done on the American people without us having any choice in the matter or even being educated, because all the information is being censored and withheld. And people just call you a conspiracy theorist because you bring up some concerns about all these connections. I mean, come on, guys. Do you think Bill Gates loves you?
Una especie de microchip con el rótulo que permitiera ser identificado. Una especie de código de barras.
And again, she says it's a kind of barcode.
Y Luc Montagnier también ha dicho que por favor paren la vacunación.
And then this woman appears, and I don't know her name, talking about stopping the push for the jabby jab because of this information and many other problems that, of course, come out later when the damage is done.
¿Cómo?
Luc Montagnier.
Sí. Luc Montagnier ha tenido que escapar, creo que está en Japón, ¿no? De su misma.
Okay, so this guy apparently had to escape from his own foundation in Switzerland because of the persecution and attacks that he got for speaking up at the time.
En Suiza. La persecución es muy grande.
Oh yeah, the persecution is intense. Welcome to my world. Yes, it is, she says. You know, the persecution is intense. This is the pressure, the harassment campaigns, the following you, the damage to your property, the breaking in your house, the intimidating you, the blacklisting you from employment, the cutting you off from all resources, and cutting you off from your bank account, shutting it down, running cars into you, poisoning you, you know, drugging you, setting you up, framing you. This is the warfare that we're in today.
No sé si te he contestado. En realidad, ese código tiene que...
Actually, that code, she says, has to be marked in metallic ink or in metal at the site of the inoculation in the form of subcutaneous, so under the skin.
Estar marcado en tinta
And in the
metálica
fat.
o en metal en el lugar de la inoculación y en forma subcutánea.
Yo he visto el video.
I have seen videos, this lady says, too, like when they bring the cell phone up to people with Bluetooth active and it picks up the code. And I saw that firsthand myself in person.
También, como cuando le ponen el celular, buscan el Bluetooth y capta. Y no solamente eso, China.
And this woman is also saying, and not only that, I can't read what that says, but she says, if you open the application with which we get the code for Bluetooth, right? So you turn on your Bluetooth and this is
Bluetooth. Como cuando vas a...
And when you you know, activate it, it looks for a device, right? And then it detects these MAC addresses in people's skin and the people around you, and you'll just get you know, tons of these, you know, like MAC address, Bluetooth addresses that aren't listed as a particular device.
Que busca un dispositivo, el Bluetooth, cuando vos lo conectás con un
When you activate Bluetooth in the cell phone, it searches for devices.
equipo, busca el dispositivo para, bueno, busca este dispositivo.
In this case, what it searches for is the device that you were inoculated with.
Que fue inoculado,
Así es.
pero es en el lugar de inoculación
But that's at the inoculation site.
donde está eso.
Okay, guys, so I just wanted to share that really quick and let you guys know just about the multi-pronged attacks that we're under, whether it's the food, the water, the air, whether it's weather, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, hail the size of baseballs, or whether it's just the system itself, the medical system, and the police state that we're experiencing, because it is a police state under the emergency rule executive orders that are being followed rather than the supposed laws of the land. And they just haven't told you that America was hijacked. And that is why we see the direction that we're going in. And this is a tyranny. And you got to understand what a tyranny really is. And that is crisis management. And it will be, you mark my words, one crisis after the next, after the next, after the next, to keep you from thinking for yourself, to keep you in a state of hysteria and panic and a state of adrenaline till your kidneys shut down. That is what they plan on doing, and that is what they're doing. And that is why there's all this hostility and interruptions and conflict and, crossing your path and trying to involve you and set you up and create dangerous situations so they can turn around and pose as the savior, because that's how delusional. They think they're keeping you safe and saving lives as they use abuse to do so, right? Whether it's our narcissistic family members when we were growing up, or being enrolled and nominated in this community-based policing program. It's all really tied in together in the same. And it's really been something that's been done to us as targeted individuals our whole life. The mimicking, the mirroring, the copying, the stealing, the identity theft. Just like Klaus Schwab said. So I love you guys, and God bless.